What's up, XR developers? In this video, we're going to look at the OVR input for our controller input and our controller animations. All we need to use the OVR input is the OVR Manager, which we already have on our OVR camera rig. No matter what MetaQuest device or controllers you use, you can use the same unified input for all the devices, such as the Touch, Plus and Pro controllers. If you like this type of videos, please take a second to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel. If you'd like to support me, please check out the link in the description to my Patreon page, where you can find the source code to all the projects we show on this channel. If you have any questions, feel free to join our developer community on Discord. And now, let's get started and learn how to read the input from our Oculus controllers. Now, we have three main ways to map our input. Let's open our first example, which is the MoveCube script. Here we first use the so-called virtual mapping, accessed as a combined controller. If we look at line 10, we see that we are using OVR Input.get and then OVR Input.access2D.primaryThumbstick. Now, by default, as you saw on the picture before, the primary thumbstick is on the left controller. This means we don't really have to specify which controller we mean. However, there can be some benefit when using this kind of mapping. Namely, if we don't specify the controller, it will default to the controller that the button is on, and if this controller is not active, it will automatically fetch the active controller and use that one. So, in other words, if the left controller, where the primary thumbstick is normally located, isn't active, we can use the right controller's thumbstick to move the cube. If you are wondering how to get an active controller, we can just type OVR Input.getActiveController, which has the same effect, so let's remove it since we don't really need it. Let's see how it works on play mode. We can move the cube with the left controller, but not with the right one. Should our left controller be inactive, we can now use the right controller as well. Let's now look at the second input mapping, which is called virtual mapping, accessed as individual controllers. This means that we are accessing the controller individually. There are two ways to do that. First, we can simply access the right touch controller, for example. Another way would be to place a controller variable in the get method and assign its value in the Unity inspector. Let's do that and hit play again. Awesome, we are almost there. Let's add some more interaction. If we press button 1, we want to elevate the cube and lower it when pressing button 2. These two buttons are combined again, which means the right controller is the default input, and we can use the left controller alternatively. So, let's now cover the last input mapping, namely the raw mapping. The raw mapping directly exposes the controllers and the defined input for a specific button. And this really only works on the controller. It is defined on. So in this case, we want to know when the Y button is pressed and released. We could use the get down and get up methods, but we can simply replace those by one single get method. Awesome. And that's it. Let's do one more test. We can now move the cube in all directions as well as up and down. We also see in the inspector our Boolean whenever the Y button is pressed or released. Now what else can we do with those input? Well, maybe you want to read from the trigger how much it is pressed. We can simply access a float value from 0 to 1. Let's open the trigger color change script, and we can see that we use a combined input again for the trigger. We fade between white and red depending on how strong we press the trigger. So let's go to Unity, create a game object, make sure the script is assigned and the mesh renderer is referenced. If we test now, we can see that we can fade nicely between white and red when pressing the trigger. Amazing, guys. Let's build a quick and fun game mechanic with what we learned so far. For that, I created the Punch Projectile Launcher script. The goal is to shoot a projectile from our hand whenever we quickly punch our hand forward. Firstly, we've set up several parameters that you can easily adjust within the Unity editor. These include the projectile you'll launch, the force with which it's thrown, and a cooldown period to prevent spamming punches. In our update method, we're constantly checking for your punch. We measure the velocity of your controller's movement by directly accessing the OVR input, and if it's fast enough, or in other words, surpassing our punch threshold, and it is in a forward direction, we consider it a punch. Once a punch is detected, our script instantiates a projectile at the position of your controller, which we also get from the OVR input, and launches it into the virtual world. The force applied to the projectile is proportional to the speed of your punch, making the experience feel more natural and responsive. Now, let's go back to Unity and look at the setup. All we have to do is to create an empty game object and assign our script. Then create a sphere and save it as a prefab. Make sure it has a rigid body and feel free to assign any material that you want. I also assigned a bounce material to make it bounce off the floor and other objects. Then assign it to the script. Lastly, I added a trail renderer to give the projectile a little bit of a better look. Feel free to customize this however you want. As you can see, the sphere launches differently depending on the direction of our controller and the speed of it. One last thing I wanted to mention in this video is the controller animation. As you can see, Meta already provides us with different controller models that are also animated whenever we press a button. We can see how this is done by selecting a prefab and open an animator. We can see here that they used a blend tree. Blend trees are used to smoothly go from one motion to the next. In this case, let's look at the button 1 layer, which has a float as parameter. This means, somewhere, we are accessing the button of our controller and reading a float value as to if the button is pressed or not to animate our model. Let's quickly open the blend tree. We have two motions. And if we open both of them, we can see that one is simply the button down when it's pressed, and the other one is the button up when it is in its default state. This means we have a float value from the OVR input, from 0 when it is not pressed, or 1 when it is fully pressed. Alright, now how do we get the value? Well, you already know how. It is the same as before, and we can check this by going to the OVR controller prefab and open the OVR controller helper script. Now, this script looks complicated, but it actually isn't. All we need to see is line 411, and we could simply use this for our own models or animations. As you can see, we assign an animator and then set the float value for the button 1 parameter that we looked at earlier. So in this case, we simply read the value from button 1 and assign it to the float parameter on our animator, which is controlling our blend tree. Easy, isn't it?
Alright guys, and this is how you read the input from your controllers and use it for your game. Please let me know if you enjoy this type of concise and fast-paced videos. And again, for any questions, join our XR developer community on Discord. Let me know what you want to see next, and keep an eye out for new XR tutorials. See you in the next one.